Hi, welcome to my channel, my Lioness journey. My name is Nechelle, and in today's video I want to speak with you all about my experience with financial abuse in a marriage. Now, if this is your first video, this is the first video you ever watched on my channel, I was in a narcissistic marriage, and when you include the separation time, for a total of 14 and a half years. And I experienced different forms of abuse, but in this video, I want to speak with you all about my experience, which means I have to basically tell the story of not narcissistic, but financial abuse. But just in case you do not know what financial abuse is, the definition of that in a romantic relationship, I'll give you that information right now. Now, with financial abuse, that's an online definition, one of those across the board definition, but it could vary depending on the relationship as far as the type of financial abuse the person is experiencing. For me, I did not experience the abuse where money was taken from me. So I'll go ahead with my story. When I met my husband, we were dating and we married pretty fast. Our relationship moved fast. Our relationship was long distance. He had a job, I had a job. He decided to move where I was, so he quit his job and he moved to where I was living, and he got a job where I was living. And at the time, the both of us, we didn't make very good money. He didn't make, matter of fact, he didn't make, at the time, he didn't make more than $10,000 more than me, but he had supervisory positions. He was in the military prior to us dating and being married, and he said in the military he had supervisory type of roles, which allowed him to be able to apply for supervisory jobs once he got out. And throughout the marriage, I would tell him stuff like, you're smart, you have what it takes, because he always said that he wanted to be a manager. He felt like he could do just as much as any manager that managed him. He felt like sometimes he was doing their job, and so I would always encourage him. When he moved and then we started a relationship and got married, he had already had his bachelor degree, and I was like, I'll say I had 3 more months left to get my bachelor's degree. And of course, like many of us, you get a bachelor degree, and the intent, the purpose of getting it is so that you can make more money or possibly, manage or whatever. I didn't want to be a manager, I just wanted to make more money. Now, in the beginning of the relationship, there'll be things that he would say, and it would be things like, because we would complain to each other about our day, or things that we wanted to do, how we felt like we were undervalued, underpaid, and things like that. But when he would get upset and we would argue, he would say things like, I'm a supervisor and you're what you are, and I have way more stress than you. I don't understand why you're stressing. And I would say things like, well, I don't think a person's title, job title, position has anything to do with stress. I feel like if you're naturally a stressor, then you're going to stress regardless of what type of job you have. You could be the CEO of the company. And he would say things like, your funky little job, or your funky little money. I don't know what that's about, but that's what he would say. Funky little job, funky little money. Eventually, he got a position with another company that allowed him to make, I want to say approximately 20,000 more than what he was making. Was a big jump. Let me also add that, in my opinion, the both of us did not manage money well. We did not have a good relationship with money. We both had limited beliefs about money based off of childhood experiences and just how we saw money at the time. We both definitely had poverty type of mindsets based off of the type of experiences we had as children. And so by the time I met him, I did have some savings, but not nearly as much what I should have had. And I had not too long, how do I say, broke away, or oh God, I don't know the word I'm trying to say, but I had a shopping addiction, and I was able to kind of wean myself off of that shopping addiction. So I was no longer emotionally shopping for that time. He came with no savings. He didn't have any savings, and I had very little savings. So like I said, the both of us had a poverty mindset. So he ended up getting a job. When he got that job, I was still with the same company that I was working for when we met. By this time, I transferred to another department, making very little bit. I don't even know that I made a full dollar more. I don't remember. But the transfer wasn't a promotion, but I did make a little bit more money, and I discovered couponing. And so that hit show came out on TLC, Extreme Couponing, and my son was telling me about it. I was very interested in it. I love how the people were able to get all these groceries and save all this money. I felt like, wow, this would be great for our family, because at this time, I may have had my last kid, I'm not sure. But now we have a household. Yeah, I did have my last kid at this time. So at this time, we have a household of 6. So you can imagine what a grocery bill would be like for 6 people in the house. And I felt like, okay, doing this couponing, you mean to tell me I can get all this stuff and stockpile and save all this money? And I did see savings. I was extremely proud of myself for doing so. And so therefore, I started to coupon to save money, and I would stash some money and save it just in case we need it. In between this time frame, him and I are doing a lot of arguing. Abuse is there. He's verbally abusive. Sometimes he's physically abusive. And there'll be times that we will argue, and divorce just stayed constantly like, I'm going to divorce you, I'm going to divorce you. That constantly stayed going back and forth. So it was almost like saying, hey, are you going to pick up some bread from the store? That was how common it was for each other to tell the other one that we were going to divorce each other or file for a divorce, and nothing ever happened. Well, one particular time, because he had done many things throughout the years that just really had me like, I don't know, I can't move forward. But I wasn't loving myself. I didn't know that at this time, in this dysfunctional relationship, dealing with my own dysfunction. But I remember this one particular time, I told him I found where he had been looking at inappropriate stuff online again for hours. And I was like, this is it. I am tired. I cannot do this anymore. I want you out of my life. Leave me alone. Go on with your life. And I could tell that he can tell, like, whoa, I think she's serious this time, because usually if I call back, she'll entertain my conversation. He's calling, I'm hanging up. I'm like, leave me alone. He pops up to my job. Let's talk. I'm sorry, I'm going to change. I'm not going to be looking at this stuff. I'm not going to say this and that to you, whatever. I'm like, leave me alone. I had to go to the doctor, something wrong with his heart. Just trying everything. And I'm like, I'm so sorry to hear this and that. I want out of this relationship. So the next thing he did, because what I did not mention is during this time, because I always had an entrepreneurial type of spirit. I always wanted to sell something or make something ever since I was a kid. And I attempted Etsy, and I didn't do well with Etsy because I didn't know how to market. I just didn't do well with Etsy with my handmade stuff. And so he knew that about me. He knew that I wanted to do something, because we tried things. We tried like an online store, mainly me. I'm like doing most of the work. And so he knew this about me. So when he felt like he was losing me, he said, I know you're miserable at your job, you hate your job. Why don't you leave the job? And I know you've always wanted to try to have your own store or do something online, and, you know, along those lines. And I don't care if I have to work 2 jobs. I just want to see you happy. I don't want to lose my family. I'll do whatever I have to do. I just want to see you happy, and then you can go on and start your store, whatever it is that you want to do. And when he tells me this, at this time, it's like, okay, I'm happy, because I'm like, wow, I didn't want to leave the job to just stay home and not do anything. I'm like, either I want to leave the job and go on to another job that pays better, because I'm like, okay, I'm about to have all this student loan debt, and I want to at least be able to make the money to be able to justify paying all of this money to get a college degree. And so I was happy, because I'm like, wow, I get an opportunity to try and see how a business is going to go. You're going to hold it down on this end and give me an opportunity to build my business that's going to benefit us all. Hey, I'm down for it. And so the plan was, like, in 2 months that I'll start transitioning, and I decided to get a booth at the flea market. And so for the booth at the flea market, I will be selling my handmade jewelry, as well as some other items, like some used, like some old clothes or old furniture or whatever, just to kind of get a taste of what it is like to have a booth at the flea market. So I'm prepping. My son is helping me to prep, and then we're like putting up some money or taking care of some things with whatever final checks that I'm getting. The closer it got to the day for me to leave, like to put in my 2 weeks notice, I started feeling a little uncomfortable, but I was like, no, I'm going to push through, because here's my opportunity to finally be able to pursue my entrepreneurial dreams. But I remember saying to him throughout the time where I was getting close to the date, if I leave this job, are you going to throw in my face that I don't work? Or are you going to be throwing in my face how you're the one working? Like I just had that gut instinct, like something like that could happen. And he was like, no, I wouldn't do that to you. And I'm like, you sure? I said, because ever since I was a teenager in my mom's house, I was required to work. My mom, she didn't care. I was working like summer jobs. I started at 14 working summer jobs. And when I was able to work after school, then I worked at the school. That's all I knew was to work, although I always wanted to be some type of entrepreneur. And I'm like, I'm not used to just staying home. I'm not just trying to stay home. I am trying to build something if I'm going to have that opportunity. And I said, because I'm not going to feel comfortable with you throwing up in my face that I'm not working when you're the one that told me that I don't have to work. And he assured me that, oh no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that to you. So fast forward, I get the booth at the flea market, and at this time I have 4 children at the home at the time. My older 2, they're adults now, but they're in the home. They're like high school age. And then I had my younger 2, and the youngest one, I don't remember how old she was. She had to be, oh wow, what, 4? Some kind of age like that. I really don't remember. But the flea market that I rented my booth at was only open on the weekends. So you could only be there on a Saturday or a Sunday. You can come throughout the week to add more product or whatever you were going to do to your booth. And I feel like it wasn't even a full month, but I did that flea market booth for approximately a month. And he started complaining like, I'm here with the children, and it's hard to be with them all day. And I'm like, my goodness, like, really? You know, I have them all week. Like, I'm thinking about when I'm working too. He never had to pick the kids up from the caregiver. I'm the one dropping them off. I'm the one picking them up. I'm making sure that they're eating, they have their baths. The other ones did their homework. You cannot temporarily stay with them. It's not like the flea market is open all day. I have to come home. Once I come home, then of course, you know, I'm pitching in. And this is too hard, and we're not spending time. And so I'm gonna need you to close your booth and just try to do something online. And I was so heartbroken and disappointed. And I remember a couple, they sold like some statues, like like the little animal statues, lions and elephants, and they sold stuff like that. And I remember them telling me, don't leave, the income tax season is coming, in this particular flea market. When that season came, they made a lot of money. They're like, right now it's slow. They thought I was leaving because it was slow. And they were like, trust me, the money is coming. More people see you because they'll have their income tax. And I'm like, yeah, but I have to go, not telling them the reason why. And then after I did that, and I stayed home, I'm like, okay, disappointed, trying to figure out, well, how I'm going to do this, online. Eventually, I don't know when, say 2 weeks after that or 3 weeks after that, that's when he started, whenever he would get angry, I'm the breadwinner, I'm the one that's making the money. He'd get mad, he would tell me I can get out of his house, this his house, he makes the money. And then I remember saying, this is the reason why I didn't want to quit my job. You told me you wouldn't say this to me. This was very important to me that you did not say this to me, because you're the one that told me to quit. And as he would do with any other form of abuse, oh, I'm sorry, you're right, and I'm never going to do that again. So I didn't like how that felt, so I started to try to find other things I can do. I started researching videos on YouTube on how to do reselling, like reselling items that you get from the thrift stores. And so I started researching items, and I still have some items left over from not being able to sell it at the booth because I didn't have my booth long enough. So I started researching and started thrifting to find items to resell, and I did that for a little bit. And it wasn't lucrative, it was okay, but it wasn't something that I could live off of, or it was just like a little extra money. But I still felt good about it, because I'm like, hey, this could take off, or just felt good to be able to have something to where when he want to throw in my face that I don't have anything, or that he's the breadwinner and all of that. I just didn't like the way that felt. But he still said it, because it would be like, oh, funky little money, or whatever, it's not a real job type of comments. So then my daughter, one of her best friend's mother, told me about substitute teaching. Well, she was telling me about teaching in general. She was saying how teachers are needed, they make lots of money. She's like, you have a degree. And I think, let's see, by this time I had my master's degree, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because we went back together to get the master's degree. And she was telling me that because there's a shortage, that I could still teach, and she told me to consider substitute teaching because it was something she was doing part-time while she did some other things. And so I was like, you know what, I think I'll do that. What I'll do is, before determining if I want to make a big career change like that and become a teacher, let me try substitute teaching to see if I like it. But I still applied, and I forgot how the process went, but you apply to get the certification to become a teacher. I knew I did not want to have to go to school to learn a topic to teach, and since my degree was in business, I knew that I automatically qualified to be able to teach those type of classes. So I did apply, but what I did was I decided to just sub public school from kindergarten to 12th grade in my area. Now, what happens, I don't know how it is now, but at the time, how they paid, if you had a bachelor degree or lower, you would make, I want to say the most you could make was like $150 to $200 a week. And if you had a master's degree or higher, even if you had a doctorate, the most you could make a week was $300. And they paid you as a per diem, so it's and I might be saying this right, but it's like $75 per day if you do a full day substitute assignment, or it was like 30 something dollars if you did a half assignment. But yeah, the paycheck would pretty much be, like I said, if I'm saying this correctly, 300, approximately around that amount. Again, nothing that's sustainable, but I was just still happy to have something. And as usual, he get mad. He would throw that up. Funky little this, funky little that. In the meantime, he's terrible with budgeting. I'm a little bit better with budgeting. Like, I would save money. We'll be in the negative because of he's doing a budget, and because he's an alcoholic, overspending in alcohol, or buying takeout when we can't afford takeout. And I'm like, dude, we can't afford takeout. Why are you buying takeout? Doing things like that. And but then sometimes if I'm emotional and I'm like, yeah, sure, go on and get whatever, you know, I'm because that was something that I dealt with prior to meeting him, before I broke my own addiction from shopping. I made a lot of emotional purchases. So if him and I going at it and he wants to buy some takeout or whatever, sometimes I'm like, okay, it's whatever. I guess he'll figure this out, because obviously he's doing this budget. He knows something that I don't know, obviously. But so there were times where I would get the $300 check, and my whole check went on getting us out of the negative. And it would be so frustrating, because substitute teaching is hard. It is not easy. I commend all teachers. I am extremely grateful and thankful for you all. I don't know how you all do it. The babies are wonderful, but the babies are testing. They could really be testing. And I did the substitute teaching long enough to know that I didn't want to be a teacher. Like, I'm like, this is not my call, and I don't have the temperament for it. But I greatly appreciate all teachers. But he threw in my face that, or, you know, like I said, the money that I did make, a lot of times it went to pull us out of the negative. And at this time, during this time, like a certain point of substitute teaching, he ended up being selected to be in a promotion, to be in a program. It was like a promotional program. What I mean by that is, he was able to enter a program to be promoted to like a higher up manager, because by now he's a manager, but then he was eligible to be a manager that can be a manager over other managers. And we understood, so this program was like a 14-month program, and we understood that at the end of the program we may have to move to another city or state. And so it was something we discussed. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. You know, I fully support you. I know this is something you've always been wanting. Here's your opportunity. I fully support you. And, you know, wherever we end up moving, you know, once we get acclimated to the area, then I'll look for something there. Now, in all honesty, I was terrified, because I'm like, oh my God, we're going through all this. What is he going to do when he gets me, you know, to this other place, to this other city or state, wherever we may end up moving? What is this man going to do? But I had a lot of pain from childhood, and even whether I had relationships before him or in our particular relationships, a lot of bad things had happened in my hometown, that I knew that I was trying to run away from that pain and from those issues and problems. And so I was like, yeah, get me out of this place. You know, I want out of this place as fast as possible, thinking and believing that moving would take me away from not having to deal with any of the pain that happened. And so eventually we finally found out where he would be going after he finished the program. Now at this time I had subbed for 3 years off and on, because one of those years I couldn't do it based off of caregiving availability for my younger 2 children. And so we find out that we have to move to the Maryland area, and so which means that I had to quit my substitute teaching job. And so he was like, you know, you sure you want to go? I'm like, yeah, you know, I support you and I'll move with you, knowing that was the worst thing that I could do. Or was it? You know, when I think about my growth now, no, it wasn't the worst thing that I could do. But I guess depending on how you look at it, whatever perspective you're looking at it from, maybe. But when I think about the growth, not really. But anyway, so I was like, yeah. And he said, well, you're going to see, when we move, you're going to see a different me. All that arguing. And I'm not going to be calling you names. I'm not going to be doing all this drinking. I'm not going to put my hands on you ever again. You're going to see a different me. And you know what? Because you're supporting me, don't worry about getting a job, at least for a year. You're making a major sacrifice. Do not worry about getting a job for like a year. So I'm like, okay, cool. Basically, because he's like, okay, he's going to be making more money than he ever made, like a significant jump of money. But what we did not factor is that the cost of living in the South versus where we were moving up north, it was like, it was different. Like that money, we needed more money to sustain. Like we didn't take that into account. I lived up north as a child, and so I didn't have to worry about cost of living or anything like that. When we moved to Florida, I was 14, so I've heard of other people talk about cost of living. So anyway, we moved there, and I mean, we're not even there long before, we're arguing, and he's like, you broke B, get the F out of my house. I'm the breadwinner, I'm the primary breadwinner. And sometimes we're arguing, I'm like, well, if you're that, unhappy, why don't you get out? And he'll laugh and be like, what do you mean? I'm the one with the job. This is my house. Well, how I'm gonna leave my own house, and I'm in a place where it's cold. I haven't had to deal with snow as an adult. I'm extremely far away from family. I have no family friends. I feel isolated. I'm terrified to drive in the snow. My car is old. I mean, I'm just like, I'm terrified. I'm being abused by him. And I ended up falling into a very deep depression. And so because he underestimated that the cost of living, like he didn't negotiate, more money, he underestimated that. Then he found that, okay, we can't be doing the same things like overspending here. You're buying all this extra alcohol, or you're buying extra takeout. You're just doing whatever with money. And so there'll be times when money is short, and then he'll be like, I need you to get a job. And then I'll be like, okay. So I'll try to look for a job, and then he'll turn around and say, well, don't worry about it. I don't need for you to get a job. And he'll say something to the effect of, well, when you do get a job, I just only need for you to get something part-time. Don't get anything full-time. I could hold down the bills. I'll just need you to get something part-time for the extras, like maybe to pay our student loans or something like that. And then he'll get angry again. You see, we're struggling. You need to get a job. And then the next moment it'll be like, no, because we decided we weren't going to live in the city. No, I don't need you to get a job. Let's wait till we move to this other city and try to get a house in this city. I don't need you to get a job. Let's just wait till we move there. Then the next morning it'll be like, I don't want you to get a job. Our kids are doing well. I like how our kids are doing good, that they have a mother at home that can help them with homework and stuff like that. And all of that was just like mentally, it was mentally straining. And can you imagine somebody go, get a job, you see we're struggling. No, don't get a job, I can hold down the bills. No, you need to stay home. Okay, I'm gonna look for a full-time job. No, don't get a full-time job, get a part-time job. It just felt chaotic. Now, in addition to that, he had me to get a credit card, and the both of us applied for a credit card, and he said, well, you applied for a credit card, we're married, you put my income. And the purpose of the credit card was so that if we needed money for bills and we ran out, it would be a cushion. So I'll use my credit card to pay the bills after he exhausted everything that he could exhaust on his end. And so of course I got the credit card, and he never asked me to use it for bills that I could remember. So it's been a while. But what I would do with the credit card, and this would be my way of proving like I'm not a financial burden. You see, I'm trying to be good and be as low maintenance as possible. I would take the credit card, and anytime I would see deals like clearance on toys and stuff like that, I would get the toys and stick them in a bin. And I would do stuff like get the girls school clothes, or any extras we needed around the house. Like if I saw we were running low on some food or whatever, I would do that. I would get his Father's Day gift, a birthday gift with the card. I did a lot of shopping at the Dollar Tree. I was still couponing. And I pretty much wouldn't buy myself hardly anything unless I absolutely needed it. And when I did, I went to the thrift store. And my hair had to basically look like crap. Like, he would be like, it look like your hair need to get done over. And I'll say, yeah, it does. And I would wait for him to tell me that, okay, go on and get your hair done. Because if I asked, or if I, because he had this thing like he didn't like your fingernails to look whatever, your toes, and well, I don't like ugly toes. When I say ugly toes, like chip polish or whatever on my toes. But so because I know he didn't like chip polish on the toes, he'd be like, yeah, I gotta, make sure I get a pedicure, or at least a polish change or something like that. But if I asked for it in an argument, it'd be like, I paid for you to get your hair done and your nails done and your pedicure, and it'd be like all of this, and you can't do S without me. I got sick and tired of that, so I try to be as low maintenance as possible. Like I would need to go to the doctor, and I would go as long as possible because I didn't want to have to ask to go to the doctor knowing that I need to go to a specialist and I need a copay. And so throughout this time, again, I'm hearing this like one moment, B, get a job. Is either get a job, get out of my house, or you need to take your ASS back to Florida, get a job and go back to Florida, or you can't do whatever without me. You can't buy this. You don't have any savings. You don't even have a 401k. You don't have this. You don't have that. And then, or he'll be like, you see, we're struggling and you're allowing us to struggle. And then when I say, okay, well, listen, every time I go to find a job, you tell me don't do something part-time. I have all these parameters. I need to be available for the girls. I need to be the one to make sure they're picked up from school, taken to school. I'm the one that have to meet all the parameters, still cook, still clean, do all of this stuff. Are you going to chip in and help me out? Because it's only fair that if I do go out and find something, that then you can chip in and help out with the girls too. It can't all be on me. You're going to have to help with homework. You're going to have to chip in more. Now, he was doing some cooking and stuff on the weekends, but it was like, I never had a problem with working ever. I never in my life had a problem with work. I've never been the type of woman that was afraid to work, even till this day. Although I prefer to be an entrepreneur, I'm not afraid of work. So we eventually ended up moving from Maryland back to Florida, but a different part of Florida. And I was prepared, like, okay, so we're here. And he says the same thing, like, hey, don't be in a rush to get a job. I'm like, are you sure? You're like, don't be in a rush to get a job. I understand that you're going to have to get used to the area, learn the area. We have to learn where everything is. But when we lived in South Florida, things were a little different when it came to like childcare and the availability of before and after with the schools. Again, there no family, at least not that I know of, no friends. And for those of you, I mean, if you live in South Florida and you're watching this, you understand where I'm coming from. But for those of you that do not live in South Florida, it's different as far as depending on where you live. Like there is a lot of traffic, but depending on what city you live in, there may not be a lot of jobs there, and the jobs maybe that are available may be more along the retail end. You would have to be willing to drive to like Miami maybe, or like Fort Lauderdale, something like that, to try to find something if you live in some of those off cities. And that's the best way that I can explain it, because it's not really a lot of jobs that were accommodated. And I had, again, all of these parameters. I had to be able to pick them up, drop them off, be able to get off of work to take them to the doctor if they need to go to the doctor. I had to be able to have a job that was willing to allow me to work set hours, only part-time because I couldn't work full-time per his instructions, and still be able to be home and cook and do all these different things. And so when I would explain this to him, like, based off of what you're saying, and you're letting me know that you can't help, your job is an hour away, okay, that's fine. I don't have a problem. In fact, I prefer to get a full-time versus a part-time. But based off of these parameters, no one is willing to give me a set amount of hours with the ability to just get off of work and pick up one of the kids if I need to leave because one of them are ill. A lot of the part-time jobs, let me cut this off. A lot of the part-time jobs that were available either required me to be bilingual and I'm not bilingual, or you had to be flexible, like you're able to work these hours, and I could not do that. It's like I can't work certain hours because I had to be able to get my kids from school and make sure they're fine, and they weren't old enough to be left home alone where I could just drop them off and go back to work. Going through that and, you know, having someone to tell you, you don't have to work, you know, you're supporting me, okay, or you get a job, wait until here, and then turn around and then yell at you when things are short, when the money is short, because they've mismanaged the money. Like, he controlled the budget. He controlled what went on lights, what went on rent or whatever, or he pick a place that's outside of our budget, like we move, and I'm like, whoa, we got time. Like, when we move from one place to the other, the company put us up temporarily in a place, and it's like, let's take advantage of that. We can take our time and find a place. Let's not be such in a rush to get into something that we can't afford. We don't know the area. This is the perfect time to be asking your coworkers, what's a good place to live? What are affordable places with good schools, you know, no crime or very low crime? Like, ask these type of questions, so something that can fit within our budget, to give me the opportunity to find something if that's something that I actually need to do. And he wouldn't be willing to do that. And before you know it, we're paying rent that we can't afford, that he rushed. And then if I say something, don't you say S to me about anything. I'm getting this place, I ain't changing my mind. I'm like, okay, but don't yell at me when, you know, when we can't pull this off, or we can't get this, or we can't get that. Because again, nothing about me is lazy. I never had a problem with working. And there'll be times I saved up money and I hand him, I'll be like, look, from my couponing savings, here's $300, $400 that I saved. You said we have this bill, here you go, to help pull us out of this hole. I've done that several times until I got to a point where it's like, and nothing about me was high maintenance. I went from being a fly girl, hair done, looking good, that I did for myself, to looking like, like, I don't know, like a plain Jane. I looked like I was depressed. I looked like I was sad. I looked battered sometimes. Like, I just didn't look like myself. Going through that, I didn't even know that I was being financially abused until I started researching narcissism, narcissistic abuse, and researching a lot of the behaviors. That is definitely an example of narcissistic abuse. You know, just in you all listen to my story, the psychological part don't work. It's almost like he never intended on like supporting me in my entrepreneur endeavors. Throughout the marriage, he would say stuff like, if we were going to get a lump sum, like say an income tax check or something like that, and he knew I really wanted to try to get a store, try Etsy again or whatever, and he'll say, hey, I'm going to get this bonus, or when we get the income tax check or whatever, I'm going to let you have a certain amount of money, and that way you can get your business going. And so I'll be like, okay, fine, we get the money. I'm sorry, babe, I'm going to have to give it to you next year, the next bonus. I can't give it to you. It's like he never wanted to give it to me. And then sometimes, let's say if I'm able to save up whatever little pocket money, because he would give me for the month $300 pocket money, $100 during the first of the month, and $200 for the 15th. And that money I would have to use to, if I wanted to buy myself something, I would get the girls some stuff, or get stuff for the house, or buy gifts. I would do the same thing, because at this time that my card is maxed out. And I would get my own, you know, beads and jewelry, making things with my pocket money sometimes. And if I'm going in there trying to make stuff and I'm all proud, I'm like, oh, look what I made. Do you like it? And he'd be like, yeah. And I could tell he could care less. And then he'll be like, you in there playing with your little beads. You should be out here. And it's like, damn, I'm trying to have something to call my own, something that I could be proud of. You know, I have college degrees too, and I'm sitting here and I feel like I'm wasting away, and I'm getting older and I have nothing to show for it. And you constantly remind me that this is not my house, and how I don't have nothing, and how I have to depend on you. That was tough. That's just as tough as being hit or being called stupid bees, broke bees, dumb bees, I need to die. It was just as painful. So I'm sharing this experience with you all, not for any sympathy. I'm not, it's like, oh, I have so much sympathy for you. Not that. I am extremely thankful that I'm no longer in that situation. Again, I had no clue that I was experiencing financial abuse. It wasn't until I started researching this. And so if you're watching this, if you're still here and you're watching this and you haven't clicked off the video and you're experiencing something like this, or money is being taken away from you, then consider the fact that you are very much experiencing financial abuse as well. And because I had gone so long without working and being depressed and beaten down and back and forth, get a job, don't get a job, oh no, you don't have to have a job, I want you to stay home, like the whole back and forth, that whole chaoticness that narcissistic people do, it really played a toll on my it really affected the confidence in myself and my self-esteem, my ability to be able to find work. Because he would say stuff like, let's face it, the most you'll ever make is $30,000 a year, or you'll never be a manager, that's the only way you can make good money. Like, he would say things like that to where I'd be like, damn, is he right? I mean, I don't know, I haven't managed people, and I got tons of student loan debt that I need to pay back. And when it was time for me to leave, I was able to find a job, but like knowing that I had to start over. I had to start over, and I'm in my 40s, start over from basically nothing. Well, yeah, I feel like nothing, which is fine. Gave me a clean slate, but it's still hard. Financial abuse definitely takes a toll on your mental health. So if you are experiencing this, I would say reach out to someone. If you belong to any type of religious, spiritual type of, if you're affiliated with any type of groups like that, reach out to that leader or pastor wherever you go, or you have family members that you trust, or anyone at your job that you trust. Talk to someone, let them know what you're going through, so that you could find a way to gain some independence, some financial independence, especially if you're like myself and you're wanting to get out of that situation. But most importantly, know that you are capable and you are worthy. And just because you're not working, if you're like me and you're not working, that doesn't mean that it's over for you, and it doesn't mean that you cannot pursue any entrepreneurial dreams you have for yourself, if you have any. I don't know how, but I hope some way, somehow, that me sharing my story was helpful, that it gave you the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to address this for what this is, and I'm going to put a stop to this, and I'm going to do what I have to do for myself to become financially independent. I'm not talking about becoming rich overnight, that's not what I'm speaking about, but working on becoming financially independent and doing what you have to do to rely on yourself. So that way this person cannot throw in your face what they're doing for you and what you're capable of or incapable of because of them, or in spite of them, or whatever. So if you found this video helpful, please give it a like. Share it as well. Share it with someone that you feel like may benefit from the information I shared in this video. I have more content very similar to this topic, and check those videos out as well. So I do thank you so much for stopping by today, and I will chat with you all in a new video. Bye bye for now.